Hi,
Also,
IWF. We're here today with Peggy Hollander. Welcome, Peggy.
thank you.
Good, good to see you. Get us started by telling us about your background, where you're from, how you got here,
Oh, I
what's your
thought you wanted to
professional
know about
journey.
my background of that's behind
Oh, well,
me.
you can do that too. You can do that too.
I will
Which
do
looks
that
like
too. So
some.
what's behind me and has been my Zoom background is a piece of Chinese contemporary art. And it's a very, very, very large piece, which I won't move the thing around so you can see the ping pong balls. But I am very interested in art, not as well, I'm not an artist, but it's something that really appeals to me, the creative side of me. So that's this background. And in terms of my professional background, uh, by background, I'm a CPA, did trust and estate work, evolved out of that field when I was recruited away into a firm that did executive compensation. And when that firm fell apart and I was made redundant or otherwise fired, I had to say to myself, what am I going to do? And I made the decision I would start my own business. And as I think back on those times, I started my own business with fortitude and grit. Today, people start their business with a plan and a whole bunch of other things. But that's really the way I started, and I went back to the things that I enjoyed the most and that I liked the most, and that is working with families and trying to help facilitate good planning for them. The name of my firm is the Succession Group, and I want to help people be successful in where their assets go to the next generation, to the community. And that's really what I have enjoyed and been doing. And I feel very fortunate that with some families, I'm in the third generation, which is shocking when well, I think, do I have any Gen Zs as clients? There, I have some millennials, and when they call me up because I'm their parents' advisor, that is an extraordinarily wonderful, good feeling for me.
And you skipped over some things like where were you born, and what was
You
your
want me to really
educational
go? All right,
background?
we can go back in time. So I was born in Pittsburgh. My family moved down here when I was 9. So I've basically grown up all my life here. My father had a heart condition, and he decided no more Pittsburgh winters after he had an operation that didn't go well. So we moved down here, and I've lived in different parts of the Miami-Dade community almost all my life. I went to the University of Florida. I majored in finance, and I graduated college in 3 years. What was I rushing for? I will never know. The week after I graduated, I got married to my children's father, who was a wonderful person, but one should not get married at 20. And taking it a step further, one should not have children when they're barely 22. My daughter was born then. So I kind of accelerated some of the things that people do now later in life. Um, I am blessed with two extraordinary children, and for that I have an amazing amount of gratitude. And so then my children got a little older. I started to work when my kids were 3 and 6, because my children's father is a physician. So there were many places we were, and I decided when we finally moved down here, I had gone back to school in accounting. My original degree was not in accounting. Went back to school in accounting, passed the exam, and through, again, grit and fortitude, I got a job because most people said, "What? We don't want to hire you. You have 2 little kids and you're married to a doctor. You'll never last long." But I fooled some people.
Yeah. Well, and I only asked this question of people who grew up in Miami-Dade County, but where did you go to high school?
So I was bused into Miami, Norland.
Okay.
I,
Wow.
yeah, exactly. So I was living in the Sky Lake, Highland Lakes area, and we were bused into Miami, Norland. And that was okay. There were 1,000 kids in my graduating class.
Hmm.
Um, it was truly a diverse population. I think that's the best way to say it.
I'm sure. Well, I mean, I think here in Miami, where you went to high school, says something about you, and that certainly does say something about you because Norland is an interesting answer. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting that. Good
Well,
for you.
well, so that is where I went. And like I said, after that, I went on to the University of Florida, which was a, a great space for me, given my choices. My parents said, you can go anywhere you want as long as you stay in Florida. So I went to the University of Florida. My brother is a couple of years younger than me, and he went to Princeton. So I said to my mother, how come he got to go to Princeton? And my mother said, you could have transferred. And I said to my mother at the time, you forgot to tell me. But in fact, but in fact, having all this Florida roots, I mean, there's so many people in the community that I have known for many years, and that's wonderful also.
Yeah. So how long have you had Succession Group, and tell us what that business looks like right now?
So the success, originally when I started my business, I called it Alexander Lynn and Associates because I wanted a name that was not my name, and I decided that if it was a male name, it might get more my result with more people. And Alexander Lynn was my pen name when I was in honors English. So it was really my name. It was my other name. So I started it there. And at some particular time, I decided I really wanted to brand my business more of what I do. And that was when in 2003 or four, did the all the things that one needs to do to change the name, do the branding, get a logo, and all of that. And so that was in 2004. So since 2004, my business has been the Succession Group. And what does it look like today? Well, it looks a little different, and it really fits where I am today. I'll put it to you like that. COVID taught me something that was really important, which I would have never known. I did not know that I didn't need commercial real estate. I'm always going to my clients, or I'm going out of town to my clients, and very few people came to my office. So when COVID came and I set my staff up in their own homes, and then my real estate was coming to an end in 2021, I said, shall we go back to the office when we can? No. And fortunately, because I have a great group that I work with, some of them are no longer in Miami; they're elsewhere. But it's okay. We're still a team. I decided, okay, this is what we'll do. And what I've learned for all of us, myself included, is it gives a different kind of flexibility. And people who are extraordinarily hardworking, care about what they do, care about the clients. I don't need to monitor them in an office. I mean, that's what I learned from my staff. And the people who are someplace else. I mean, I deal with an underwriter who is in Baltimore, and then my person who does a lot of analytics for me is in the Midwest somewhere. But because of what we learned, and if you're a team, you can be a team and work together. Now, with the team in Miami, we get together either once a week or once every week. I speak to certain members of the team almost daily. But I've learned that different people have specific projects that they're almost better if they're left to do some thinking on their own and then bring their challenges or their questions to the whole team.
Interesting. I think that's true if you already have your team. I wonder about
Right.
building team without, having physical presence. But
I think
congratulations.
that would be very challenging. And the
Yeah.
other thing that I think would be very challenging is the person who is my primary person. I have worked with, shocking for me to think, almost 13 years. And her name is Amanda. And Amanda guides others on the team. And because of Amanda, because of the importance that she plays in the role of the administration, which is really what's critical, because I think in my business, service is the most important key. There's a lot of people who can deal with product, a lot of people can put a plan together. But once you put a plan together, if you don't implement the plan, gauge the plan, and modify the plan according to what the family's changes and needs are, then you're really not doing, as I would perceive to be, the best job. So, yeah.
Well, so you have more than 20 years, based on if with at least with Succession Group. So tell us, is there a particular accomplishment that you're proud of? professionally?
Well, that's a good question. And I thought of an answer, but I'm going to give you two answers.
Okay.
I think one of the professions that most people don't think about is motherhood. And I am most proud of my two adult children. And I say that because I think that if you can have children who are independent, uh, not I was going to say reasonably sane because everybody's a little crazy, then it is really an accomplishment because I see too much in my business where certain families have children at all ages who are entitled and they haven't grown to whatever potentially their capacity or their skills or the whatever is. I feel blessed that my children are extraordinary in who they are and what they do. That's the first really important accomplishment professionally as a mom. The second accomplishment that's wonderful, as I mentioned to you before, is when I'm working with multiple generations. I think it doesn't matter. I always say it's not just about the money. It's about passing the values from one generation to another. And values and interests change. So you might be very hypothetically philanthropic, and your philanthropy might be guided towards one thing. And I know that you've been recently awarded wonderful things, but your children might have different interests. And if we as parents and or philanthropists or professionals can guide people to say, it's okay to have a different interest. It can be their value, but it's still doing something for the greater good. So I'm really strong on the importance of passing on not just the wealth, but the wealth of the values.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And speaking of what you're interested in, how do you connect with the community beyond your profession? I know you mentioned art. Are there other places you connect, or how do you
Well,
connect with art?
I have been on, I would say a cajillion, but that's an exaggeration. I have been on many boards in my professional career. Some of them were related to the University of Miami. I was on the board of governors at Sylvester. I was president of Citizens Board, which is a group of friends and business leaders. I've been involved with the School of Music, but today, where my involvement is through MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Arts in North Miami. And that particular museum is special in its own right. It serves a community for which the schools no longer provide art programs, as an example.
Mhm.
And we open our doors, and our after school teen force or the summer camps are an amazing enrichment both at the museum and at the local library. So at MoCA, I'm a member of the board, I'm the chair of the finance committee, and I'm the treasurer. It's sometimes I say this too much, but
Yeah.
I feel very, very strong about the importance of if we can enrich someone's life, what could be that to me is a gift. They're giving me a gift. I walked in one day, I'll tell you only a short story. So I walk in one day and it's a board meeting, and I see a group of fifth graders with one of the educational directors there. And she was giving them a lecture on the painting that was in front of them. But her lecture was, this color, it's red. What kind of emotion do you feel? And what do you think when yellow? Or what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? And she was engaging these kids. And what I found out they were in is it's called a junior docent program. So they get to learn about art. And then on the last day of the program, it's a couple of weeks long from the school, they invite their parents and then they explain to their parents about art. How wonderful.
Yeah.
How absolutely wonderful. I mean, just those kind of things just give me a shine. So that's where I'm real active. And other things that I really enjoy doing is I started a few years ago to take photography lessons, and I do my own photography and I have it printed and I'm very excited about it. It's personal to me, but I jokingly say I'm a voyeur, so most of my pictures are of people, and I have to be careful about that. But photography allows me to look at life through a different lens. It's very
Yeah.
different.
And I think that answered my next question with what you're learning about now. Is that what you're learning about now, or are you engaged with something else?
Well, I'm a lifelong learner, and for example, my granddaughter Olivia had the opportunity to, she's working. If you have children at 22, you can have grandchildren who are older. I have older grandchildren. Okay. So my old, I have three girls. And by the way, my three granddaughters are my Gen Z board of advisors. They
Wow.
teach me about things like last year it was lit, this year it's brat. I mean, they teach me the right words and they're excellent. They got me on Instagram, I don't know how many years ago. But Olivia, the oldest, works for Google and she does AI weather, and her team is in Ghana, Africa. So they said to her, so she wisely said to them, well, if the team's in Africa, don't you think I should go over there and meet the team and bond? I mean, this is Peggy speaking now. And she was sent there for 6 months. And I was talking to her before she went. And I said, Olivia, who's going to visit you? And she said, nobody was. Do you want to, Grandma? I said, yes. My point being is that I will go anywhere that I perceive to be safe. And it was truly an adventure because I'd not been to Africa. And I experienced the culture. I experienced the art. I bought a piece of art there. I met with a few artists that I found. You know, you can find anything on the internet or AI. And I purchased a piece of art. I learned that the custom is to eat with your fingers. So we go to a thing and I ate with my fingers, and a Ghanaian man comes over and he gives me a fist bump because he knew obviously I wasn't from there. So what am I doing now? I'm trying to experience as many things as I can. And it really is a framework that I embraced in reading a book. The book was called Die with Zero. But what they mean zero is zero regrets. I confess I did not like the way the book was written. It didn't capture me. But the concept of dying with no regrets and taking it a step further, when you're younger, you can take chances, you can be riskier. As you move along in life, you have less opportunity to be as risky because you have less time. And ultimately, there will come a time when I may not be as agile or able, but to have all these memories, those are gifts to me. Those are absolutely gifts to me. So I'll go anywhere, almost.
And maybe you've answered the question, but what is the best advice you've ever received?
I think the best advice I ever received was I was early in my career and I was having a hard time because it was never really my role to bring in business in the accounting firm I was with. So it was really never my role. And in the executive comp firm, the guy who was the owner of the firm, he just brought in more business than any of us could take care of. And when I first started, I was challenged, and I wasn't going to cold call. I wasn't going to hustle my families. I wasn't going to do that. And I was looking, and I saw that somebody was getting, more referrals than I was. And it bothered me. And somebody said to me, and it was somebody with a little bit longer in the business, a little older than me, and said, don't look over your shoulder at the other person. Just look at yourself and see where you can do the best. And I think not looking over our shoulder and seeing what other people are doing can really be a deterrent to us. Because I don't want to compare myself to the next person. I want to do the best I can do. Yeah. And I think, and as I look back on it, I think that was one best piece of advice. That the person who gave me the most confidence was my father. Because when everybody else might have been doing weren't going to the school of business, and I wanted to do it, my father said, this is what you want to do it. So my father always gave me the confidence that I could do things that might be not the path that people were taking at the time.
Yeah. So just some fun questions.
Okay.
What is a fact about you that we could not find on the internet?
A fact about me that you cannot find on the internet. Well, you probably wouldn't find my photography because I don't post what I perceive to be the art. But a fact that you wouldn't find on the internet probably is that I love to have people around my table. I'm the chef of my own house. You come over for dinner, I'll get somebody to help serve, but I'll always ask you 2 questions or 3. Do you have any food allergies? Do you have any intolerances? Or is there something you never want to see on your plate? Because I've learned people do have allergies. And if I'm going to be the chef de cuisine, I want you to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, I love to ask questions at my dinners when I have them that are a little bit not what do you do, but if you had one superpower, what would you want? And you have to be careful when you ask that question because there's both good and bad.
Yeah.
I used to say healing hands, but then I would have cajillion people knocking at my door. I don't want them there. So, or some people would say invisible, and I would say, yeah, you always want to be invisible. So it's an interesting question to start a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's your answer?
Well, my answer is I would like to know more languages. I would like to know languages universally so I can understand people. But if I really had one superpower, and I don't think it's possible, I would like to be able to know why or how we can encourage all of us to speak to each other with respect. Because in today's world, it's so polarized. And I could have a different point of view than you, but I will still respect your point of view. And to me, if there would be some way to do a magic potion and throw in the air, that would be great. I'm not looking for everything to be harmonious because that would be boring. And we all can't like each other because that would equally be boring, be too benign. We all going to be different. But I just wish we were a little more in tune with the fact that we can be different.
Yeah. Especially now.
Yes, especially now.
What book, podcast, or television show are you recommending now?
I started to watch the movie The Brutalist because it's streaming.
Yeah.
And it's really extraordinary. I even purchased it because I knew it was a 4-hour movie and I knew that I needed to watch it more than one time. And I've started to watch it and I think it is wonderful. Okay.
Yeah. It took us all day to watch. We
Okay.
did at
Yeah,
home too because you need breaks.
you need breaks. And I knew how long it was and I knew I wanted to watch it. Okay. The book that I'm reading now that I think is really amazing is called, wait, I have to go, I think it's called The History, two of them. One of them is The Genius of Israel, and the other one is something like The History of Israel. I can see it over there. My client gave it to me. But I think if and I was in Israel twice in 2022, and hopefully I'll go back for the month of May again. 2 trips were canceled. But I think if we can learn a little bit more about the people and how they got the strength or the scrappiness or whatever it's scruffiness of who they are. I mean, they are the original startup nation. And it's very interesting to read how they got that way and how it can maybe apply to us. For example, there was one section in I think The Genius of Israel that talks about their children. They are more willing to let their children have some independence at an earlier age. They're not micromanaging, hovering over their kids. And by them allowing their children to have a controlled, more set of independence, then those children are more willing to explore, to be creative, to be independent. I think that's important.
Yeah. What is the most exciting or memorable adventure that you had outside of your profession?
Well, I told you I love to travel. I told you I was in Ghana. My trips to Israel, the last trip I was on was the best adventure.
Always,
I mean,
whatever was last.
whatever was last was the best adventure. I think the last trip that I was on last year was I was in the Monterey Bay area in California. I'd never been there before. It's spectacular, whether the nature or the food or just talking to the people and the art. I mean, so, and this year I'm hoping to go to India. So that'll be my next great adventure. I mean,
That's a great answer. That's how I feel too, I think. Okay, last question. If you were in charge of the playlist, what song would play next?
oh, I love Brat Summer. I mean, it's great. It really and truly is. And I actually did a talk to a bunch of business owners, and it was my walk-up song because
Oh,
it's got such energy to it. And if you listen to it, it really tells you you got to be out there. You got to do things. You got to have a growth mindset. You can't have a fixed mindset. I mean, I'm using my words, not theirs, but
Yeah.
I think that's what's important to have. Now, I like classical music. I like jazz. But if I were to have a walk-up song, I'd have to ask my Gen Z board of advisors to give me a new one.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks for
You're
being here.
welcome. Absolutely. Thank you.